I had this list in my mind 10 years ago. I never imagined reaching the bottom of that list. I have therefore made the decision to stop playing River Monsters. Jeremy Wade recently disclosed the true reason Monsters was cancelled at the age of 69. Furthermore, it's worse than everyone anticipated. Today, Jeremy Wade is 69 years old. He remained silent about the true reason why River Monsters ceased for 7 long years. Everyone believed they understood why. There are no more creatures to capture. Wade, however, was lying. He eventually said anything. You will be shocked by what he said. The reality is bleak. The reality is unsettling. The reality demonstrates just how horrible things actually became behind the cameras. Wade was reluctant to share this tale. However, he claims that at age 6, he can no longer conceal it. For 9 seasons, River Monsters was in production. Around the world, millions of people watched Jeremy Wade capture lethal fish in perilous waterways. He became famous because of the show. It crushed his heart and nearly killed him, but it also made Animal Planet wealthy. Wade told a short narrative to everyone when the show concluded in 2017. He claimed to have a comprehensive catalog of creatures. There are no more big fish to find, he remarked. Supporters took him seriously. The media gave him credence. It made sense. Everyone agreed. Wade wasn't being honest though. The true cause was far more serious. Wade ultimately acknowledges, at the age of 69, that he misled to shield others from the terrible truth. You will be upset about the true reason River Monsters ended. It will alter your perspective on the world and cause you to feel depressed. Wade set out on his adventure long before television cameras were invented. He spent 20 years visiting far-flung locations that most people never see. He was an adventure-loving biology instructor. He spoke with the local residents and fishermen. They told him tales of enormous fish that were capable of killing humans. These tales weren't only frightening. Wade documented every detail. He gathered hundreds of giant fish stories from all across the world. According to certain legends, fish could eat dogs whole. Others spoke of animals that pulled swimmers down and wouldn't let them go. Wade became seriously ill with malaria while traveling in 2007. He nearly died of the illness. He had an idea. While he was bedridden for months, what if he was able to create a television program about these enormous fish? What if he could use science to unravel these mysteries? In 2009, River Monsters was launched on April 5th. The Amazon River served as the backdrop for the initial episodes. Wade studied the Arapama and Periba catfish, 2 fabled fish. According to the locals, these fish murdered people. Wade was curious as to whether this was accurate compared to other fishing programs. The show was unique. Wade approached every case as though it were a detective tale. He spoke with witnesses. He gathered proof. In order to investigate these fish, he then attempted to catch them. He never exaggerated the drama of the situation. River Monsters quickly gained a lot of popularity. It was Animal Planet's most watched program at the conclusion of the inaugural season. In America alone, more than 1.3 million people watched each episode. WDE's serene approach to mystery solving was adored by viewers. Nevertheless, Wade was observing something awful even during this early success. Regarding what he discovered in these rivers, he kept confidential notes. The water was becoming more contaminated. The number of fish was reduced. They were destroying the environment. Wade documented everything, but he kept it to himself. The show began filming in even riskier locations by 2011. They traveled to Asia's Mekong River and Alaska. These weren't merely lovely places. They posed a serious risk. Heavy equipment had to be carried through dense jungle by the crew. Sometimes it took days just to reach the fishing grounds. Accessing these isolated rivers was becoming more difficult and costly. Each episode now cost over $500,000 to make. The group labored 14-hour days in terrible heat, rain, and cold. They ate bad food and seldom slept. Many crew members were growing sick and weary. Wade himself was getting older and weaker. He was in his 60s and his body couldn't withstand the tension like previously. But the worst part was the danger. Wade almost died multiple times while filming, and he kept it secret from fans. In the Congo, Wade developed malaria so acute he nearly died. It's something that kills people every day, Wade later said. I very nearly joined them in the Amazon AI giant Arapama. Fish hit him so hard in the chest that he felt pain for 6 weeks. That fish basically hit me like a horse, Wade remembered. The crew also faced deadly situations. During one shoot, lightning injured a sound crew member. The bolt burned his legs horribly and scared everyone. Wade termed it one of their closest calls ever. It reminded us that we weren't invincible. He continued. Wade also experienced a horrific electric eel encounter. The eel might have shocked him with 500 volts when he was diving underwater. That much power in water is equivalent to drowning. It was more than just frightening. Wade acknowledged that it was nearly over. These near-death encounters were occurring increasingly frequently. The team was searching for new creatures in increasingly hazardous locations. After Season 7 in 2015, a number of longtime staff members left. They were no longer able to cope with the risk and stress. However, none of this was ever seen by domestic viewers. The episodes appeared flawless. WDE's serene narration, thrilling catches, and stunning filming. All of the wounds, fatigue, and near-death situations were concealed by the editing. Wade and his group were silently suffering. Wade had identified more than 100 species of hazardous freshwater fish by 2015. He had been to every continent's rivers. Solving actual mysteries in far-flung places was the key to the show's popularity. However, it was becoming very impossible to find new monsters. The largest rivers had previously revealed their mysteries. Wade had to travel to smaller, more isolated rivers in order to unearth new stories. These locations were frequently remote from aid or hospitals. The crew might not receive medical attention if something went wrong. Wade was aware that the show was having issues. In one interview he stated, "The danger is in repeating ourselves. We lose the truth upon which the show was founded if we begin to fabricate danger." He declined to fabricate excitement or drama. Longtime viewers began to notice that certain episodes included fish they had previously seen. On occasion, the show went back to familiar settings or animals. This gave the impression that Wade had ran out of monsters to capture. However, the reality was far worse than a shortage of monsters. The fact that many of the monsters were going extinct was the true issue. Animal Planet was evolving at the same time. The network made the decision to concentrate on family-friendly programming in 2016. They preferred programs about adorable animals and pets to risky adventures. Executives wanted to reduce expenses because River Monsters was one of their most costly productions. Network executives began to scrutinize WDE's costly travels. Previously swiftly accepted proposals were now subject to limitations and budget constraints. Worried conversations about money and safety took the place of the enthusiasm surrounding large journeys. River Monsters made a comeback for its final season. On April 23, 2017, no significant announcement that this was the end was made. The season ended on May 28, 2017. After which it had ended. Wade gave a straightforward public explanation. "Our topic matter is limited, yet some concerts can go on forever. I had this list in my mind 10 years ago. At this point, everything has been checked off, and then some." Although sad, the fans understood. The show appeared to have come to an end after discussing almost all of the world's deadly freshwater species. Social media was flooded with farewell posts from viewers who said that the program had transformed their lives. Wade, however, was concealing the truth. Finally, at age 69, he is unable to maintain the secret any longer. Wade just acknowledged lying for years in a private conversation. "I can no longer conceal this," he said. There were still monsters to find, but it wasn't the true reason River Monsters stopped. The reason for this was that the monsters were dying. Wade disclosed that the rivers he loved were being destroyed by pollution, overfishing, and dam construction. Once vibrant locations turned deserted and lifeless in a matter of years. The water was murky and dead when he went back to places from the first few episodes. The enormous fish was no longer there. The animals that had lived in several of the rivers I had visited were no longer able to survive. This wasn't just a problem for filming, Wade clarified. The environmental catastrophe was occurring more quickly than anyone had anticipated. Wade's most devastating experience was going back to a river from an early season and discovering it in utter ruin. In a matter of years, human activity had eradicated the monster species that had inhabited the area for thousands of years. Wade, however, was harboring more secrets than dwindling rivers. Additionally, he had major safety issues that he kept from his admirers. Numerous risky events in unstable nations had been kept under wraps. The crew had narrowly avoided severe accidents and were embroiled in local tensions. Concerns about approving future seasons were growing among insurance firms. They sought to impose filming limitations that would have prevented the production of the show. Wade came to the realization that the spectacle could not go on without endangering his workers. Wade also disclosed a moral dilemma that had plagued him for many years. He was concerned that broadcasting rare fish could incite poaching and illicit fishing. The show's publicity may further harm endangered species in some areas. Wade's greatest moral dilemma was that, while River Monsters made rivers appear fascinating and enigmatic, they never discussed how rapidly they were disappearing. He believed that by failing to depict the environmental damage occurring everywhere, the show was deceiving its audience. "I was concerned that the show may inadvertently romanticize these waterways without fully informing viewers of the dangers they were facing." Wade said that he ended the show in part to prevent giving viewers the wrong impression. When all of these truths were eventually made public, WDE's narrative underwent a radical shift. What appeared to be a typical conclusion to a popular show was actually a choice compelled by moral obligations and environmental disaster safety concerns. Wade did not simply retire when River Monsters came to an end. Rather of capturing monsters, he began a new mission centered on protecting rivers. He made a comeback in 2018 with Mighty Rivers, a program that examined the condition of significant river systems globally. This new program was entirely different. Wade investigated how pollution, overfishing, and dams were harming river ecosystems rather than going monster hunting. Every episode concentrated on a different river, such as the Danube, Amazon, Mississippi, or Ganges. The tone had become more urgent and serious. Wade shifted from being a monster hunter to an environmental investigator. He demonstrated why fish populations were declining and how environmental harm was spreading, undetected by most people using science and interviews. Wade carried on this study in 2019 with Dark Waters, investigating ecological collapse and invasive species as concerns. He was now asking what's happening to this river, rather than what monster could be hiding here. Furthermore, why isn't anyone listening? Wade never identified as an environmental activist, but it was obvious from his recent performances that he was advocating for disappearing habitats. The emotional impact of these later series was noted by fans. The fish were no longer the true monsters. These included diminishing ecosystems, eroding food chains, and pollution, compared to a single organism. These new threats were more hazardous and complex, although river monsters aroused interest in the natural world. WDE's most recent research concentrated on the serious health issue that rivers face globally. Wade, who is now 69, has now revealed the whole truth of why river monsters actually went extinct. It wasn't that he ran out of creatures to capture. The reason for this was that the monsters were being eliminated more quickly than he could locate them. It was because every episode put his staff in grave peril. The reason for this was that he was unable to continue deceiving his supporters about the environmental catastrophe occurring in each river he visited. Wade concealed these details for 7 years in order to shield people from the terrible reality. However, he now asserts that the world must understand the true state of our rivers and the incredible wildlife that inhabit there. If we don't take action quickly, the monsters will only be seen in past River Monsters episodes as they are going extinct. Jeremy Wade, 69, eventually spoke forward after realizing that keeping the truth to himself was not benefiting anyone. The true tale of river monsters' rejection serves as a cautionary tale about the damage we are causing to the environment. Wade also claims that it is becoming worse every day. Do you believe that Jeremy Wade has finally come clean about river monsters?